All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. Look, today we're taking a massive amount of chaotic, fast-moving info about the US-Iran conflict and, well, synthesizing it into a clear, urgent roadmap. There is just a ton of noise out there right now, but we're going to rely on the hard data to cut right through it. Just give up. Yeah, those are the literal words from U.S. President Donald Trump today. The U.S. is essentially declaring its naval blockade of Iranian ports a total, absolute success. And the administration's public stance is incredibly stark. They are absolutely not offering any middle ground here. Which brings us to a massive number, 62. Today is May 1st, 2026, and this actually marks day 62 of the war. According to analysts and mediators on the ground, the conflict has officially entered its absolute most dangerous phase. We're well past the initial shock, and now we're in this high-stakes war of attrition, where the clock is just rapidly running out for both sides. Part 1. The public standoff. Loud threats and deflections. So, to figure out how we actually get out of this, we really need to look at the aggressive theater playing out right in the open. Iran remains incredibly defiant publicly. You've got Iranian President Pezeshkian labeling the U.S. naval blockade and all those Gulf disruptions as straight-up intolerable. Meanwhile, their parliament speaker, Ghalibaf, completely brushed off the blockade as ineffective. And the Iranian military? Well, they're claiming their current restraint is just a deliberate choice to give diplomacy a chance. But the sheer level of public confidence Trump is projecting about this blockade is pretty staggering. He actually told CNN that 159 Iranian ships are, right now, underwater, making any sort of naval comeback essentially impossible. And because they feel they have all this leverage, the Trump administration is giving a hard pass to a conditional offer from Iran. Tehran basically said, we will reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but only if Washington ends the war first, and we deal with the nuclear stuff later. The U.S. response? Essentially, no way. They want a deal that handles the nuclear threat right up front. And right into this incredibly volatile mix steps Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin actually issued a really severe warning directly to Trump today, urging him not to resume military attacks and to stick with the ceasefire extension. Putin warned of, and I quote, extremely dire consequences if the U.S. and Israel resort to military force again. So yeah, the public rhetoric is literally at a boiling point. Part 2. Public versus private reality. Okay, let's actually take a breath, step away from the microphones, and look at what's really happening behind closed doors. Because honestly, it's a completely different reality. While the public stance is all about total surrender, a tightening blockade, and absolutely no piecemeal deals, privately, sources close to the mediation say the two sides aren't actually as far apart as they seem. There's this highly active secret diplomatic backchannel moving right through Pakistan, and they're actually making quiet progress on a staged process, basically a phased return to the pre-war status quo, starting with reopening the Strait of Hormuz and pushing the nuclear issues down the road. It is a wildly different picture than what you're seeing on the evening news. Part 3. The global ripple effect. So why does all this high-level geopolitical maneuvering actually matter to us? Let's zoom out for a second. If you're watching this from the US, you are already feeling the pinch, right? Average gas prices are hitting $4.30 a gallon. If you're in Canada or Australia, you're seeing surging gas prices too, with analysts warning oil could hit a staggering $115 a barrel. And if you're in the UK or Germany, the threats go way beyond the gas pump. This war is hitting wallets, it's hitting food supplies, and it's threatening national security all over the globe. Specifically for the UK and Europe, things are getting terrifyingly precarious. The World Food Programme just put out this dire warning. If this conflict keeps going, up to 45 million more people could be pushed into acute food insecurity this year. I mean, Britain is already wrestling with crippling energy inflation, and now they're facing compounded food shortages right on top of it. And then you've got Germany, which is dealing with this incredibly unique, double-edged crisis. Not only are they facing those energy shortages, but they're staring down a massive security dilemma. Donald Trump is actively considering pulling out between 35,000 and 50,000 U.S. troops stationed in Germany. Why? Well, because Chancellor Merz has flat out refused to join the Iran war. So Germany is basically getting squeezed on both energy and defense at the exact same time. Part 4. The blockade math. All right, with the global stakes laid out, let's drill back down into the actual mechanics of this conflict. Is the U.S. blockade actually working? Honestly, it all comes down to a literal ticking clock, 20. Analysts estimate that Iran has only about 20 days of oil storage output left. The U.S. strategy here is brutally simple. cut off Iranian exports, wait for their internal storage to fill up completely, and then? Well, the crucial point is that when that storage hits its absolute limit, which remember is only days or maybe a couple of weeks away, Iran's oil output will be forced to a complete hard stop. We are talking about the very real potential for total economic collapse within weeks. It might not actually be military pressure that forces Tehran's hand in the end. It might literally just be the crushing mathematical reality of an economy with nowhere left to put its most valuable resource.
Part 5. 3 ways this ends.
So, where do we go from here? According to mediators on the ground, the next few days are absolutely the most crucial of the entire war. There are exactly 3 definitive factors that will determine how this whole thing ends. Step 1 is that blockade breaking point we just talked about. Does Iran's economy crack first? Step 2 is the staged deal framework. Can that secret Pakistan back channel actually turn into a signed agreement? But honestly, it's the third factor that is by far the most volatile. Let's focus on that final piece, military patience. Remember, Trump originally predicted this war would only last 4 to 6 weeks. Well, as we just established, we're currently on day 62. That's 9 weeks of conflict. Washington's patience is rapidly running out. Sources are confirming that the administration is laying the groundwork for an extended blockade. And, crucially, they're actively hearing military options right now to strike Iran's remaining infrastructure. The options being discussed in the Oval Office today could very well be tomorrow's reality. Which leaves us with this final massive question as the diplomatic window shrinks by the literal hour. Will the crushing math of the blockade force Iran to just give up, like Trump is demanding? Or is this war going to drag on into the summer, pushing the entire globe even further into economic and security chaos? Look at the facts we've just unpacked. Weigh the loud public threats against that quiet private diplomacy, and let me know what you think. Drop your predictions down in the comments. I'll catch you in the next explainer.